Okay, I have cutaways of four normal like parts store ball joints. Um, Again, I won't be sharing names of some of them because I don't think they all are bad. I think a lot of these have their place. So it depends on what you're doing. You know, if you just have a normal daily driver, any of these options will work great for you. Um, if you drive, on a lot of bad roads and stuff, one of these might be better for you than the other. If you find yourself having to replace ball joints every year, there's going to be one of these that are going to be better than the rest. But if you drive a Toyota Camry or a Nissan Rogue, any one of these will work perfect. Um, but let's get it into it. So, this is your normal parts store ball joint. Um, this would be the economy level. This is the cutaway, and this is how it's made. So you'll have a boot that comes over it just like this. Inside of here is a self-lubricating plastic. It's usually either like a pre-greased ball joint. There's obviously no Zerk fitting or anything like that. This plastic, depending upon, who made it for that particular company, it could be made out of nylon, it could be made out of Delrin, or it could be made out of UHMW, which is a ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. Which that stuff is awesome. It's very hard. It doesn't shrink in temperatures, and it's self-lubricating. But what they do is they pump these up with grease. They basically assemble them, and it's an economy level ball joint. There's nothing wrong with this ball joint. Next, we have basically the same thing, just made just a little bit different. This is like the step up to the ball joint, this one particularly. A lot of parts stores sell these under different brand names. What most people don't know is that a lot of these parts stores, they will buy several millions and thousands and millions of ball joints from the same manufacturer in China, and then they put it in their box and sell it. This particular ball joint has a Zerk fitting. The ball has a chrome, it's basically like a polished little chrome ball in there. This particular plastic reminds me more of Delrin, but the only thing that I kind of see wrong, some of these designs, what they end up doing is, let me get my focus, is that a lot of times this particular one has a hole in it. And depending on the design, I've seen ball joints forget to put that hole in it and have failed miserably. And sometimes the grease will actually go on the outside of this Delrin into the boot, and then when you pump up the boot, it then puts the grease through like the pressure of the boot, if it doesn't leak out, all the way up into the ball socket. The way it's supposed to be, if they made it right on that Friday night or Saturday night, and it wasn't like one of those Friday night ball joints, there's supposed to be a hole right there in that Delrin, because this is a very, very, very thin piece of Delrin. It's very hard, and it goes through there, and then it goes around the actual ball socket, then into the boot. Again, nothing wrong with these ball joints. They have their place. Then we'll go over to this one. This is the Moog. Obviously you can see it. It's very plainly obvious this is an internal boot Moog. Again, there's nothing wrong with this ball joint. This has almost like a thrust washer. Moog has a patent designed on the actual, there's a washer that goes in here, and you can see it right above my thumb right there. And that washer has like a little bit of a preload, and it's supposed to hold like 100 pounds. The problem solver ones are always like the better ones. It's usually the problem solver is also an American-made ball joint. This is like another type of washer up here. Some of the heavier duty ones have gusher bearings in them to where the grease is supposed to flow through it although I've only seen it work in like demos with like actual like penetrating oil. I've never seen grease go through metal before like that. But this ball joint, you can see how it's constructed. It has this massive washer at the top where the grease goes through, and it holds this ball socket tight at the top, and then it has this kind of a channel right here. Grease goes in through this piece right here, and it kind of stays throughout. And you know, it does have some friction in between a lot of spots in here, and then they have that washer and then their lock ring. The Problem Solver ball joints is the better Moog, although I have found that there are a lot of parts stores nowadays not really carrying these brands anymore, and a lot of these you have to order online. I don't know if it's my area or if it's just how things are going now, but I'm finding that Moog is harder and harder to find unless you go to one particular auto parts store. Again, there are nothing wrong with these ball joints. And then I'm going to show you this particular one. This particular ball joint is insanity. This has a bigger polished ball socket, and the actual grease design of how it spreads grease throughout almost reminds me of like the stitching on a baseball. And this is full metal on metal contact, and then it has this massive retaining washer that holds everything together. This is probably one of the most heavy dutyest designs I've ever seen. These are probably one of the strongest ones I've ever seen. This is more of like if you have a half-ton truck that wants to do three-quarter things, this is the one you want. If your truck is always going in rough terrain, this is the one you want. If you drive through the woods, have a dirt driveway, if you know the roads you drive on a daily look almost like the Marines boot camp roads, this is what you want. This thing can take a lot of abuse. It generally uses a bigger nut at the end to retain it onto the vehicle and on the knuckle. The grease design's pretty cool. Goes through here. It squeezes itself around this piece right here. It goes all the way around because there's a gap in there. I don't know if you can see that. This gap generally goes on both sides, but the cutaway has kind of compromised that just a bit. But it will go around all the sides, retain the grease in here, and pull it up as it needs be. This is probably one of the strongest ball joints I've seen. And I think I just eavesdropped it, but this is one of the most craziest ones I've seen. The ball socket obviously is a lot bigger. If you compare, this one's bigger. This one's bigger. This one's way bigger. Not everyone needs this ball joint. There's nothing wrong, again, with any of these. You know, finding a place to have your vehicle worked on that offers lifetime warranties on their suspension is probably the way to go. But if you do it yourself, you do a lot of crazy stuff. You do things that, you know, with your vehicle that ain't supposed to happen. You just need a very heavy duty ball joint, and you know, you don't want to sit there and do them every year, and all you want to do is grease them every now and again. Seems like a pretty strong one, but again, the price difference may be out of your budget, but obviously for what I do, that's why they're on mine. But there is nothing wrong with any one of these ball joints. It just depends on what you have, what you do with your vehicle or your truck. Depends on which way you want to go. But like I said, if you find yourself replacing ball joints every year, I'd probably go with that one. If you have a Honda Civic, ball joint's bad, that one's fine, that one's fine, and that one's fine. It just depends on what you do. So, I can tell you, this is generally the starting grade for a lot of parts stores, and this is like the upgraded, like this, you know what I mean, that has the Zerg fittings. Again, nothing wrong with these. This is the hard to find Moog, and one thing that I've noticed is that the Mevotech TTX has the same design. There's a little bit of difference in here on this like retaining washer, but they both, when I've seen on another couple videos, the cutaway on it, it looks almost identical to a Moog. There are some slight differences, but it's about 75%. It's damn close. But you can see why somebody who has a performance vehicle would want to go with these, or has a lifted truck, or goes in the woods. You could understand why they have this. And again, there is nothing wrong with any one of these ball joints. And I remember a year ago, 2 years ago, this company was just like the rest. So they redesigned them and made them very, very strong, and made a heavy duty design. And that is the Duralast Gold. But like I said, there is nothing wrong with any of these ball joints. But if you find yourself and you're working on your car or your performance vehicle, and you find yourself going through these left and right and you just can't seem to keep a ball joint in it, maybe step up and go with the next step up. I honestly think these are probably stronger than some of the other options out there, like Kryptonite and a few other ones. I'd probably give these a shot before you go that route. But as I said, these are all great options. It depends on what you do, what kind of vehicle you have, and the terrain you're on. That's all that really matters. But, you know, if you're just a customer and you're going to a shop, and there's nothing wrong with any of these. No, any of one of these will work perfectly fine. In my preference, if I had, like because I also own a Toyota Corolla. If I had to choose one of these for my Corolla, I would probably go with this one. Or this one. I probably wouldn't put this one in. I'm not, going through dirt roads with a Corolla, but I would want something that is definitely greasable for sure, which is either of these. I think this would be overkill for that. But like I said, heavy duty applications and performance applications, that's your winner. Hope you guys learned something. Try to have a good night.